All right, everybody, thank you for coming. I'm so glad to have you here at our third weekly back to school event in this series on back to school. We are the Four Healthy Mamas, and I am Julene Lambert, also known online as Rescue Mom. That's where you can find me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all that things. We've kind of been introducing ourselves each week as we go. So today what we are going to discuss is what to do when you actually get sick. We had a great class last week that Shannon taught on building your immune system. So hopefully you've been able to incorporate some of those items that she talked about and have been able to start working on building your kids and your immune system as they go back to school. We've got to remember, as a former teacher, and Holly, who taught the first class, was a former teacher and a preschool teacher, the beginning couple of months of school, especially if your kids are going into kindergarten or starting a new school, it is very common for them to be bringing germs home. But that also means that you have the potential to be sick. So don't overlook the adults in the house and the preschoolers in building their immunity. This isn't just about building the immunity of your children that are in the public school system, because they're going to bring all their crud home. I am going to go through a couple of things where you may want to write some things down, so I would encourage you to grab a notepad so that you can take some notes as we go. So we've talked about building our immune system. We've talked about a couple of other things over the last 3 weeks. Today we're going to talk about what do you do when things go wrong. Sometimes even our best laid plans, our best plans on building our immunity and being strong and being all holistic and using our essential oils are not going to work, and we're going to end up sick, or our children are going to end up sick. What are some things that cause that in our lives? And some of these are kind of no-brainers, but some of them you maybe hadn't thought about. Stress. Stress is a huge issue, and we need to remember that as our kids start a new school year, they're under stress. As adults, we get nervous when we go into a new social setting, and sometimes it really freaks us out. We need to remember our kids do the same thing, and some of them show it through tears, through tantrums, through misbehavior. Some of them aren't going to show it, but they will end up getting sick, and there is a certain stress with starting a new school year. Sicknesses that are around you, there's really not a lot you can do. You can be as holistic minded as you want. You can do everything possible to boost your immune system, and your kids still might get sick from some germ on a grocery cart somewhere or a school desk. It just happens. Fatigue, especially going into the new school year where if you're under daylight savings time and all that, the light and their sleep schedule's not synced yet. They're going to bed at odd hours, new hours for them. The kids can get tired, especially having to get up really early to go to school, and that's a whole nother soapbox that I get on sometimes. It drives me crazy how early we start school. Emotional stress, that kind of goes along with regular stress, but there's physical stress and emotional stress, and both of those can come into play on getting sick. Genetics, some kids are just more predisposed to getting sick when they're around germs, and that happens. Poor hygiene, bless their heart, how many snotty kisses have I had, and throw up and boogery noses and all that kind of stuff, and kids aren't great at washing their hands as much as we try to tell them to be. Poor nutrition, sometimes just life gets crazy, and our kids are picky eaters, or we get busy and we're not helping them put the proper nutrition into their body that they need, whether that's super mix or whether that's just eating healthy food. Sometimes our nutrition, even as adults, gets kind of behind and lacks. Life, sometimes things just happen. There's sometimes no way of controlling our ability to not get sick. Step one when you are sick is this an emergency? Is this something that we can be discussing on the internet and talking about how we can treat things holistically, or is this a true emergency? Now that in and of itself is a completely full class and something we are not going to touch on here. Just be aware, that is step one, of course, is to decide if this is something that you even can be kind of boosting and dealing with yourself. On my website, which is here on the screen, rescuemom.com, fairly soon, within a couple of weeks anyway, I'm going to have a full class on there on what to do, how to know if something is a true emergency or not, because that's where I'm coming from as a longtime former EMT. Please understand that nothing today should be construed as medical advice in any way, shape, or form. Please research dilution rates, oil quality, and be in touch with your own medical professional at all times. Today, we're simply discussing some ways to support better health and ease the discomforts of life when you're being treated appropriately. And make sure you watch our other videos, subscribe to our YouTube video, channel. This is not a push for that. I'm just saying we can't cover everything in this one little short class. So make sure that you're following all of our videos, as we will discuss safe oil usage. We will discuss dilution ratios for different age groups in there. So when you do get sick, it is important when you're not feeling well to act quickly. The sooner you can act on that little, I think I've got a tickle in my throat. I think I might be getting a stuffy nose, but I'm really not sure. If you have any hope of treating something holistically a little bit, it has to happen quickly. Look at the big picture. As soon as you start to feel like you might be coming down with something, look at what's going on around you. Immediately make sure that you've cut out sugar. If you haven't, now's the time to cut it out while your body is trying to heal and trying to fight off whatever illness it has. Cut out dairy. Dairy is notorious for building congestion and mucus in the body. If you're not one that goes dairy-free normally, when you feel you are getting sick, particularly something respiratory, make sure that you cut out dairy at least for that time. Eliminate stressors, and please remember that our children have stressors too. There's been a lot of articles and news reports on this. We tend to way overschedule our children based on back in the olden days when I was a kid, and through probably your generation as a parent, there was a lot of free time, a lot of unscheduled time in our lives. And more frequently, we're overscheduling our kids, and that causes stress, both physically and emotionally on them. So when you start to feel like someone is getting sick, now is the time to say, we're not going to do this practice. We're not going to go to this game. We're not going to do whatever. We need to get you better. That's job number one, is taking care of your body right now, because it's when we get sick, our body's yelling at us saying something is wrong. Now's the time when you first feel you're getting sick to boost the nutrients even higher than you have. That means, if that means extra super mix, if that means making sure that your meals are even more nutritious than they have been, throwing in some added vitamin C and some added nutrients, that's the time to take care of that, is when you very first think that you're getting sick. Stay hydrated. I know we talk about that in terms of stomach issues, and we'll touch on that a little bit, but just in general, when your body is sick, your cells need to be well hydrated to be able to flush the toxins and the illness out of your body. So make sure as soon as you start to feel that you're getting any kind of illness that you're staying very well hydrated. And make sure that you give your body some rest. This is important all the time, to be getting proper rest, but particularly if you feel like your body's starting to fight off some kind of a bug. I love natural hand sanitizers. I cannot stand the ones that are full of alcohol. They dry my skin out. I've watched, my grandkids, when they're using hand sanitizers, if they're the alcohol-based ones, they will flare their eczema, and it just is really rough on your hands. There's some great recipes for natural hand sanitizers. A Mayo does have one that's pre-made. I've kind of opted to use that one instead of going through all the rigmarole of creating my own hand sanitizer and worrying if it has preservatives in it and if it's going to last, and just the hassle of making it. I like just using their hand sanitizer at this point, and it's very nice. Assign someone to be in charge of cleaning duty. If it's you that's sick, that's not going to be you. If your kids are sick, make sure that someone is cleaning doorknobs, cleaning toilet handles, cleaning cell phones. Your cell phones is one of the most dirty things around. Remote controls, Wii controllers, all kinds of touch screens that are in our homes at this point. Make sure someone is cleaning those. Also, when you start to feel like you're getting sick, it is very common, I do it, in being stressed out. Oh my gosh, I can't handle being sick right now. I've got the flu. This is going to go through our whole house, and all of our kids are going to be sick, and we're going to miss this big event because we're all going to get sick. Try to be positive about it and have a positive attitude in terms of, yeah, there's something that's trying to attack my body right now, but I have the ability to fight that. I have the knowledge, I have the tools, and I'm going to contain this so that everybody in the house doesn't get sick. And that positive attitude really goes a long way for either not letting it spread or not letting it be as severe in your house. This book I can highly, highly, highly recommend. Every house that deals with essential oils, whether they're a Mayo or something else, needs to have this book in their house. There's a link here where you can get it if you want to write that down. It is available on Amazon. Dr. Scott Johnson is an amazing reference. He works with a Mayo. He recommends a Mayo. He just recently has been promoted and is on their advisory board, which he hasn't been up until very recently. This book is my Bible. It is worn out. There's hardly a line that's not underlined in it. In this book, you can look up every single oil. You can look up possible substitutes for those oils. You can look up possible medical interactions with medication you're taking. You can look up dilution rates. You can look up where they're grown, how it's supposed to be grown, what it's good for. Very thorough. This is the book that is used partially as one of the texts for the essential oil certification course that a lot of us have been taking, that I've been taking. It's fantastic. In the back of the book, there's page after page after page of illnesses and things that you might deal with in your home. Now, I'm not going to be able to get on here just due to regulations and say, here's what you do if you have the flu in your house. That's not what we're here to discuss necessarily today. But I would recommend that you have this book in your home, because this is going to be your go-to book when you need to find out what to do for a certain situation. Because although we love to talk to people online and we're generally available through instant messaging, we're not always available, and you can't always find somebody to ask those questions to. There's also a really good app that you can get, the Integrated Essential Oil app, if you have a smartphone. It used to have a monthly charge, and now it's just a very minimal cost like most apps. I can't remember what it is right now, but you can look up a lot of illnesses and stuff in that. I'll be honest with you, the way that I use this book most, I have a hard copy in my kitchen. One thing that I do is I do have the Kindle copy of it. Now, whether you're a Kindle reader or not, you can have the Kindle app on your phone. And if you did nothing but have the Kindle app and have this book on Kindle, it's always with me 24 hours a day on my phone. I can take screenshots, send it to people, discuss things, cut and paste things. That's a really good way to use this book. And you'll find detailed instructions on here and covering many, many illnesses. Dr. Johnson also has a lot of other good books that you'll see if you look at Amazon. Once you start to get sick, look, are you drinking your Supermix? As much of a Supermix fanatic as I am, there's times when life just gets busy and you kind of look at the last few days and think, oh, man, I've kind of been lax on it, or I didn't get it done today. I mean, I did that yesterday. I got about halfway through it, put it in the fridge, realized this morning, oops, I didn't go back and finish the rest of it. So it happens. Look, make sure that you're drinking your Supermix. That moringa is going to give you the nutrients that you need to fight any illnesses that you now have, that your body is doing. Even my grandkids are safe taking this. They'll split a packet between 3 of them. Why is dilution recommended so often? Why do we talk about dilution of oils? I want to discuss this just very briefly, and this is an entire class in and of itself. First of all, it makes the oils safer on your skin, and it makes them safer for different age groups. Certain age groups can handle more intense application of oil than others, because little kids' liver is not necessarily as strong and developed as an older person is. It allows them to work longer, and when I first read the research on this, it seemed very counterintuitive to me. My thinking was, well, if you put an oil on undiluted and you put it on what's called neat on your skin, it disappears really fast into your skin. It gets to your cells. It's going to work better. It's going to work faster. Well, it depends on what you're trying to do. There are very few oils that I will put on neat. There's a couple. And again, that's an entirely different class. But if you are trying to deal with something and you dilute an oil, the science is now showing that that actually stays in that area longer and will prevent some evaporation of the oil. So even in, if you're just trying to get as much oil as possible into whatever the situation is, diluting it is not a bad idea. And we'll have a separate class on that. Oops. Hang on, I didn't mean to. Hang on. Go back to my dilution. There we go. Another reason to dilute your oils is money. Oils are not cheap. Even cheap oils are not cheap. And I do know that as I've switched, I've jumped around with many companies, many different oils over the years. I will use literally half as much with a Mayo. So if you look online and you're trying to deal with an illness that you have and you find some magical recipe that somebody posted to help with whatever your situation is, please understand that if you are using a Mayo oils, please cut that recipe at least in half. There's no need to use as much oil as people tend to throw on things. More is not always better in this case in terms of oils. Dr. Penawal teaches that small amounts of oil more frequently is actually much more healthy to your body than trying to inundate it with a whole bunch of oils at once. We're going to cover a couple of areas that tend to be problems. Now, I'm not just, excuse me, I'm not discussing specific illnesses or diseases in these categories. We're talking about symptoms of other illnesses. Fever is something, when you have a fever, your body is telling you that something else is wrong. So listen to it. A fever in and of itself is not a sickness or an illness. It's a sign that something else is going on in your body. A fever also will help kill the viruses and bacteria in your body. And this has kind of become, I'm very pleased about it, much more common knowledge that we should let fevers run their course to a certain extent. Now, I'm not talking about letting your child or someone in your home run a really high fever or a high fever for a prolonged period of time. I'm talking about, it used to be when I was a young mother, many moons ago, the idea was your child ran a fever, oh my gosh, you immediately run, you grab the Tylenol, you start rotating Tylenol and ibuprofen because you've got to get that fever down. Thankfully, young moms are not being taught that anymore, and we're learning that letting your body work a little bit and letting that fever try to kill off the viruses and bacteria is actually a really good idea. So don't be super fast to treat a super low fever. It's just telling you something else is going on. There are some guidelines, and these don't come from me, these don't come from the company, these come from the American Pediatric Association. Under 3 months, so new little babies, if they run a fever at all, they need to see a doctor. This is not a time to be all holistic when you've got a brand new little baby in your house under the age of 3 months. If they're running a fever, they need to see a doctor. 3 to 6 months, a fever of 101 degrees or higher should see a doctor according to the APA. That's their guideline. Over 6 months, see a doctor if the fever is over 103. Now, that's not to say, and this is covered in the other course I'm doing, that's not to say that you never would see a doctor with a child with a fever. There's many other decisions that go into that. But when we're talking strictly a fever, those are the guidelines that the American Pediatric Association is putting out to new parents to understand when they need to see a doctor. There are some things that you can do to support fever discomfort. In the age of birth to 2, sorry, I didn't move my little video thing here. Dilute 2 tablespoons of FCOs, fractionated coconut oil. Put 1 drop of frankincense and lemon or chamomile and apply that to the spine. Now, as you're seeing, I'm not using peppermint. I don't use peppermint on young little kids. There is some evidence that there's a chance that it can slow their breathing, so we don't use peppermint on little children. So birth to age 2, dilute 2 tablespoons of fractionated coconut oil with 1 drop of frankincense and 1 drop of lemon or chamomile and apply that to the spine. Ages 2 to 6, 1 pint lukewarm water with 1 tablespoon apple cider vinegar, 3 drops of true lavender, 1 drop of lemon, and soak a cloth, wring it out, apply it to the forehead and the spine, and avoid the eyes. Now, these recommendations are coming from that book that I'm recommending all of you get from Dr. Scott Johnson. So that's for ages 2 to 6, and I'll leave this slide up here for a minute so that you can write it down. It's also going to be on YouTube, so you can certainly get a hold of that when you're on our YouTube channel. 6 and older, you can be a little more aggressive and you can start to use peppermint. 1 pint of lukewarm water, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and 3 drops of peppermint, 1 drop each of eucalyptus and true lavender. And do the same thing. Soak a cloth, wring it out, put it on the forehead and the spine. Now, one thing you want to be careful of is a lot of people will recommend using peppermint for fevers. You don't want to overuse peppermint for fevers because it works so well, frankly. It cools the body, and it can actually, especially with a young child, even if they're to the safe age of using peppermint, can cool their body a little bit too fast. One thing that we can discuss just while we're on the subject of fevers and while I'm leaving the slide up here is oftentimes people will talk about, well, my child had seizures when they had a fever. This is just interesting information. You get a seizure when you have a fever, not because you have a high fever, but because your fever changes dramatically quickly. It goes very much up or very much down really, really quickly. That's when the seizures happen. So as a result, you often think, well, my child's got a fever, I need to get cold cloths on them, I need to get them in a cold bath. That's not the case. If your water is just even body temperature and they have a fever, it is going to feel cold. So keep in mind, you can have, that's why he recommends lukewarm water. We're not talking about putting cold water on your children. That would not be good. It does not have to be very cool at all. It can even be a little bit warm. and still be colder than their body temperature, and that's what you're going for. Stomach yuck, we will just call it that. Nausea, vomiting, things like that, those are not really illnesses in and of themselves. Like a fever, they're signs that something else is going on in the body. This is not, and this is just a personal pet peeve, we need to continue educating people and working this word out of our vocabulary. When your child or you are throwing up, you do not have the flu. The flu is a respiratory illness. It is not a stomach illness. But over generations, we've started calling stomach yuck the flu, but it's not. Always seek immediate help if any kind of stomach issue is accompanied by a high fever, stiff neck, headache, or vision changes. And there are other guidelines, but that's just a few very basic ones. It can be caused by something you ate, but it can be caused by something in your environment or many other causes. So we're not even going to touch on that at this point. We're just talking about what to do if you're throwing up or your child is throwing up, how you can ease that discomfort a little bit. Activated charcoal can be a good support, but we're not going to get into a lot of detail on that in this class. Do your research, decide if that's something that's appropriate in the specific situation that you have going on. For adults, if you have nausea, you can inhale 1 drop of ginger and 1 drop of peppermint. You can do this by putting a drop in your hand, rubbing it, and just smelling it. You can put it on a Kleenex and smell it. But 1 drop of ginger, 1 drop of peppermint for adult can really help nausea. That will also help with post-surgery nausea quite a bit. Adults can also orally, if you're taking essential oils orally in a capsule, 2 drops of peppermint, ginger, clove, lemongrass, and oregano, and top that off with fractionated coconut oil and take that a couple times a day. Topically, you can dilute in about 2 tablespoons of fractionated coconut oil, 1 drop each of peppermint, ginger, and or juniper to the abdomen, and rub that on your stomach. Now it's interesting, Mayo has a blend that has some of those oils in it. Honestly, I don't make my own nausea blends when I'm feeling sick in my stomach. I just use a Mayo's Just Calm. It works great. One really interesting thing, and we're going to get into this a little bit further down this bullet point list, is if you have nausea and you are trying to keep things in your stomach and you're massaging oils on your stomach, you want to go counterclockwise. If you're trying to get, we'll just say it, if you're trying to get poop out, go clockwise. And we're going to discuss that a little bit better, but be gentle when you're rubbing oils onto someone's stomach, especially if they're nauseated. This is not the time to do a stomach massage. Children ages 1 to 5, stick with inhalation. You can do 1 drop of lemon and 1 drop of ginger on a tissue or inhale through their hands if you want. If you want to stick with straight inhalation, put it on a tissue and let them smell that. Children ages 6 to 17, topically or inhalation, they can do 1 drop of peppermint, 1 drop of ginger, spearmint, fennel, and lemon in 1 teaspoon of fractionated coconut oil and apply to the inside of the wrist and the ankles. And that's really interesting. If you've ever been on a cruise and you've seen people wear those wrist bracelets, you've got some pressure points right on the inside of your wrist that can help a lot with motion sickness. It'll help with morning sickness, things like that. So that's why it's saying to apply. And again, honestly, I wouldn't create these elaborate blends, but they're there if you would like to. I would just be using Just Calm, and you can apply a small amount to the wrists and also to the inside of the ankles, as well as just smelling it and inhaling it. And that will get the oil on those pressure points that you would be using in acupressure or acupuncture to help. We'll just call it the poops. Life happens. There's 2 forms: too much, too loose, and not enough, and too hard. That pretty much covers it. Both forms can be life-threatening, but particularly diarrhea, so treat this with caution. The number 1 thing is to stay hydrated for both problems. If you are constipated or you have diarrhea or your children do, please stay hydrated. That's critical. If a child dies from diarrhea, it is because they're dehydrated in most cases. For diarrhea, you can use 1 drop of chamomile, 1 drop of true lavender, and 1 drop of tea tree in a teaspoon of fractionated coconut oil and massage a small amount into the abdomen. That's a very gentle way to go. It's going to help a little bit with germs if that's going on. It's going to calm and ease the stomach and help that to work. Over age 5, you can use 1 drop of peppermint, fennel, and basil in 1 teaspoon of fractionated coconut oil and massage that amount onto the abdomen. Constipation can be a big issue, particularly with babies. I don't know how many times I've had people contact me and say, you know, my baby's not pooping, they're constipated, what do I do? And normally the doctor will prescribe, you know, little suppositories, and we've used those, they work great. If you want to try it, usually at that point, people are willing to try anything. I have actually seen this one work. I've got a customer who read about this and did it with her child and was absolutely blown away. Dilute 1 drop of lemon in 2 tablespoons of fractionated coconut oil and massage it clockwise into the belly. Not massaging, rub it gently. But again, you are going clockwise because that's the direction that your intestines go. And you are trying to get the poop out if you're constipated or your baby's constipated. So go in the direction that your intestines work, which is clockwise on the stomach. Adults and older children can use 1 drop of lemon and a drop of ginger and do the same thing. So there's kind of some things that you can do for that situation. We will just call this category the Goop. We're talking about nasal, ear, eye, anything that exudes from its body that's disgusting and is like snotty. Please be aware, don't ever put oils in the eyes or in the ears. And I still see recommendations for this on the internet to put a drop of such and such an oil. And it's okay to use our oil because it's safe and it's pure and this. Don't put oils in the ear. Don't put oils in the eyes. I mean, it's very dangerous. If you do use tea tree around the eye, dilute it and make sure that it's well away from the eye, around the eye orbit. It does not need to be in the eye. It can be way around the eye and it's still going to affect that area. And again, if it's slightly diluted, we talked about this before, it's going to stay and work in that area a little bit longer. So diluting is safer and it's also going to let the oil work better. For ear discomfort, you can put 1 drop of lavender and 1 drop of tea tree in 1 to 2 teaspoons of fractionated coconut oil and massage it around the outside of the ear. This will help kill germs that are going on in the ear. It'll also ease the discomfort of an earache. You can also place 1 drop of that mixture, the lavender tea tree mixture, on a cotton ball and place that in the ear. Now that's different than putting oil in the ear. You've got very sensitive hairs in the ear that you don't want to damage, that you don't want to dry out, and the oils can do that. So just put a drop of that mixture on a cotton ball, stick it in the ear overnight or during the afternoon. It'll help, especially simple things like getting a little bit of water on your ear because you've been swimming. Congestion in general, ages 1 to 6 for little ones, 1 drop of myrtle, pine, and thyme in a teaspoon of fractionated coconut oil, and you can massage that to the chest and back. Keep this very diluted for little ones. Over age 6, you can use 2 to 3 drops of eucalyptus and 1 to 2 drops of myrtle, peppermint, and thyme. Now, Ameo has 2 blends. One is AGX Breathe, and one is Soothing Air that can be used for older children, 6 and older. I think it might say 2 and older on one of those, but this is not for babies. These are not for little tiny babies. Eucalyptus is not safe for little children. It's another one, anything that has a lot of, it's called 1,8-cineol. It's one of the constituents in eucalyptus, can be not good for them, can slow their breathing and can be dangerous. So we don't want to use eucalyptus in little tiny ones. For those that are older, I like to think of it in terms of Soothing Air is really good for, I'm just congested because I don't feel good and I've got a lot of snot in my sinuses. I like to use AGX Breathe when it's more chronic issues, things that are going on. If you haven't seen the video on the epigenetic studies with the essential oils, you really need to check it out. But it's kind of a preference thing. Some people will tend to like one oil over another, and it's okay to use either of those with your older children. For little tiny baby, for little ones, you can diffuse oil, and I would recommend using lemon and frankincense. And that seems like an odd combination to me, but it's not. Some of the fir oils also do a good job, but stay away from the peppermint and the eucalyptus. For little ones, I would recommend diffusing lemon and frankincense. Don't diffuse anything with, I already said that, with eucalyptus and peppermint for your little ones under the age of 6 or so. Some people recommend waiting to the age of 12, but this certainly is not for preschoolers to be using peppermint and eucalyptus. This blend is your powerhouse. This is your go-to oil when you are sick. Proshield is Ameo's protecting blend. It's their blend that is going to be the the one that you go to when you need to get the crud out of your house because you are now getting sick. Proshield can be used in cleaning. I've got, I was going to grab it, I forgot it, about an 8-ounce bottle. In fact, this is really good to mention. I've got an 8-ounce spray bottle that I've got distilled water in and some Proshield in it, maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 drops at the most in the spray bottle, and I use that to clean my counters. Now, if I'm doing 8 ounces of a liquid and 20 drops of Proshield, and that's strong enough to be cleaning and disinfecting my counters, why in the world would I want to take several drops of Proshield and put them on my little tiny child without it being diluted? If it's perfectly okay being diluted in 8 ounces to still kill the germs on my cupboard. We don't need to be as aggressive as sometimes we think and have been taught in terms of essential oils. Proshield is very good for diffusing. I love to diffuse it. It's got a kind of a Christmassy chocolate cherry cinnamon kind of a scent to it. This is not one that personally I would put in a diffuser and put in a small child's room because of the cinnamon content in it. But I do diffuse it in our home when everybody's coming in and out of the house. I just have it in a normal size room. I wouldn't close a small child up in a room with Proshield diffusing it. I don't think it's safe. Topically, again, we talked about diluting it and using Proshield. Especially you can use Proshield on the bottoms of the feet. It works great in terms of just helping you feel better. I've diluted it and used it on my chest. I've used it orally when you feel that's appropriate. I've put a few drops of Proshield into an empty veggie cap, and we need to do a video on how to make veggie caps, and we'll do that pretty soon. I've used Proshield many, many times when I, as an adult, feel that I'm getting sick, and I'll put a few drops into a veggie cap with fractionated coconut oil, and it will kick whatever my body is trying to fight off. You can dilute it into a roller bottle and apply it, as I said, to the bottoms of the feet at the first sign of illness. And if you don't know what a proper dilution rate would be for different ages, reach out to one of the 4 of us and we can get you a chart that'll show you some safe dilution rates for oils. But Proshield is one of my favorite oils in terms of killing germs in your house. So you've got the oils that really help in your first aid kit would be Proshield, Just Calm, which happens to be on sale this month, Soothing Air, some of those that are going to help with the main symptoms when you're feeling crud come into your house. If you're a new little caterpillar studying oils and you're looking for a place to start, Ameo has a lot of kits, but there are 3 which contain the oils that are most commonly used. They're specifically set up with 9 different oils that are the most commonly used oils, and they cover a lot of the oils that we've discussed here. Those kits range anywhere from $140 to $330. And these are strictly oil kits. We're not talking super mix kits. There are kits that combine both. They come with a diffuser, a basic water-based diffuser or a nebulizing diffuser, depending on how fancy you want to get. Each of the kits contain different size bottles of oils. That's part of the reason of the price difference, but they contain muscle mend, which is great for muscle owies and muscle strains and things like that. Lavender, which we have discussed. Lemon, which we've discussed. Peppermint, which we've discussed. Proshield, Determination. And why is my screen showing pink things all of a sudden? That is very bizarre. Soothing Air and Pure Tranquility. I think, are one of you guys running your mouse on the screen by chance? Hang on a second. Annotate. Yeah. Okay, that's really bizarre. I apologize, guys. One of the mouses was causing some drawings on the screen. So we've covered a lot of things in terms of supplies in this class. We will get a list of supplies together very shortly. Again, one of which would be the book that I highly recommend. There are a lot of oils. If you were to choose some of the best oils to use when you are getting sick, you're talking Proshield, lavender, eucalyptus, peppermint for the right age. Frankincense is a tremendous oil. Oregano has a lot of germ-fighting properties. I've got a picture of kind of some of the ones on here on the screen that that were talked about and recommended. Roller bottles, you can get them on Amazon. You can get them all over the place. Honestly, if you really get into oils, there's a place, and you can email one of us and I'll get you the link. I bought, I think it cost me $50, and I got 400 roller bottles. That's enough roller bottles for me to last from here to eternity, the rest of my life. I will never have to buy another roller bottle. And for me, that was a good investment to just always know I've got the supplies there. And Mayo sells some fantastic spray bottles that you can get, little 2 ounce, 1 ounce, 8 ounce, different spray bottles. Those are good to have on hand. I love to use Proshield in cleaning, like I said, particularly if someone is sick. I used to be a Lysol freak. If somebody in my house was sick, I would be Lysoling everything in the house. And right now, it just freaks me out if I grab the Lysol can and think I'm going to spray it. I just can't do it. So I use my spritzer bottle with my diluted Proshield, and I'll use that to wipe down handles, wipe down telephones, wipe down door handles, all that kind of stuff. It works great. Have had no problems or complaints with that at all. Contact one of the members of our team, the 4 of us, or you can use our general email, which is 4healthymamas, 4healthymamas with the number 4, @gmail.com, and we'll send you a list of some of these products that were discussed in this class and the ones that we think would most help you fight illness once it does hit your house. Let's see if I can. Oh, this is just really not going to cooperate, is it? Wait a second. All right. Okay, we talked about, oh, yep, the dry. That's where we're at. Sorry, guys, life happens. If you would like to win a free bottle of Proshield, we're so glad that you attended this class tonight. And as you can see, it's informal. We don't have everybody's videos on that are here, just a couple of us. The rest of you have your video and your audio hidden, but we know you're here. And we're very glad that you're here with us and very excited to share some of this information. We're going to have a raffle drawing. This drawing will extend until Tuesday night, August 23rd at midnight. Our next class is going to be next Wednesday. So this drawing will go until Tuesday at midnight next week. There are several ways that you can earn tickets. These are your homework assignments. You can go to the new 4 Healthy Mamas Facebook page and tell us what you learned in the last few weeks in these courses. This is a new Facebook page that we started. We'd love to hear what you've learned. Just make a comment. You'll see the place there to do that. That will get you a raffle ticket for the Proshield. Follow, like any or all of the 4 of us on any social media platform. The info is going to be here on your screen in just a second. That will get you another raffle ticket. If you purchase a kit from one of the 4 of us that you've been working with, or we'll hook you up with one of the 4 of us if you haven't been, that's going to get you 5 extra raffle tickets. If you want to buy one of these kits and really get started and learn how to use these oils, we're going to get you educated. We're going to help you know how to use them. That's also going to get you some extra raffle tickets. So that's your homework assignment for the week before the end of next Tuesday. And then we are going to send out a free bottle of Proshield when we'll do a drawing on that raffle. Next week, I'm really excited. My good friend Myra Adams, I do are just going to love listening to her voice. I do every time. She's going to talk about increasing your nutritional punch of your meals, how to eat more healthy. This is something I need to work on, and I'm really excited to learn from her and see what she has to say. This is going to be next Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Mountain Time, same place, same link. We will send that link out. You can follow us on many of the different social network platforms. And I'm hoping it's not recording. Give me a second. The pictures. I want to make sure my release shows. Okay, we've got all of our contact information that I'm going to leave up here. And you can contact us at 4healthymamas@gmail.com. We've got the new 4 Healthy Mamas Facebook page and YouTube page. Once we get these classes done, and we're going to be adding some of our own videos on there, we've got our own YouTube channel. And our contact information is there. And Myra Lynn, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see your contact information on the screen? Or is it being covered up by your pictures? Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure we weren't blocking you out and leaving your contact information there. If you've been working with any one of the 4 of us and you've got questions, please reach out to one of us. If you have not been working with one of the 4 of us, pick one or go to our general email. We've figured out how we're making this all work, so just reach out, grab one of us, ask your questions. and we will get you the resources that you need. So I'm so glad that you came this week. It was really fun to do this. It really got the wheels turning in my head in terms of what to do when our families get sick with school starting. And think positively, be prepared. You've been building your immune system. You've been learning all of these things. You're going to be learning more about eating healthy next week. Be prepared, and you are not going to get as sick this year as you will other years. So with that, I'm going to stop the recording, and I look very much forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much for coming.